Over this last weekend, I went to Anthrocon. It was a lot of fun, and I think I really enjoyed myself. I met some of you all, I hung out with some other cool people, and ultimately, I'm glad I went. But there is one thing I can't help but keep thinking about, even days later. You may have heard or seen on social media that at Anthrocon, certain people were wearing some pretty strange ribbons. Ribbons that were pretty vitriolic and political in nature, and not something I really thought belonged there. Of course, I'm talking about the Nazi furs fuck off ribbons that some people were wearing on their con badges. Now, as far as I know, these were handed out by attendees, and I'm not sure how aware the AC staff were of the ribbons in the first place. The staff also seemed very busy the entire time, so what I'm getting at is that I don't want to blame the Anthrocon organizers for this, even though they allowed it to go on. And inaction may have been the best thing to do in this case, considering the huge controversy that would be sure to arise had they done something. So instead of focusing on that, I want to focus on why wearing these ribbons probably isn't very healthy for the furry community. I think that wearing the ribbons might actually be counterintuitive. The purpose of wearing them being to tell Nazis that they aren't welcome at the convention, and people want to do that because they don't want others to feel unsafe or bullied by groups like neo-Nazis. But you have to ask yourself the question, how many Nazi furs do you think were actually attending the convention? Probably none. As I've said in other videos, I don't really think that anyone who seriously holds Nazi ideologies is the kind of person to consider themselves a furry or to attend a furry convention in the first place. There may be a few people who make jokes about Jews or wear a Nazi armband to get attention, but how often do you really see that, especially at a convention where everyone is far more reserved with that sort of thing than they are online? I think that the whole idea of Nazi furries and this push to fight them is kind of misplaced. It's a witch hunt. You're looking for something that doesn't really exist. The ribbons might as well say, chupacabras fuck off, for all the good it would do. You might ask, if Nazi furries don't exist, then what's the problem? People can wear whatever dumb ribbons they want, right? Worst case scenario, the badges are just pointless. Along with that, I've heard the phrase, if it doesn't apply to you, don't worry about it. And this usually comes from people who say things like, fuck off Nazis, or that they want to punch Nazis. The idea being that if you aren't a Nazi, then you have nothing to worry about. And while that might seem to make sense, there are some concerning implications. If you were to tell me that I was a chupacabra, I would say, okay, I'm not, but, feel free to think that. Or if you said chupacabras were not welcome in the community, I would say, I don't think those exist, so I don't really care. But when you say both to me, there is a problem. Witch hunts don't stop if no witch is found. If people can't find a witch, then they start accusing others of being witches. Historically, this has happened over and over, and this is where we're at with Nazi furs in the community. I've been accused of being a Nazi, and the same goes with most of the people I'm friends with or who associate with me. And you can be accused of being a Nazi for any number of reasons, including simply not agreeing that someone else is a Nazi. And once people start to rile themselves up over who's a witch, it's basically impossible to convince them otherwise. So when I see the ribbon that says Nazi furs fuck off, it's inadvertently telling me and my friends, and honestly most of the community who doesn't agree with the vocal minority calling everyone Nazis, that they aren't welcome. Now, several people did approach me who were wearing the fuck off Nazi furry ribbons, and they wanted to shake my hand and they seemed nice. They clearly didn't seem to think that I was a Nazi, and maybe they weren't the kind of people who would go around accusing anyone of that. But by wearing the ribbons telling Nazi furs to fuck off, they are inadvertently bullying a large portion of the community. If you are wearing a badge like that, you aren't making a stand against Nazis. All you're doing is pushing the agenda of a small but extreme side of the fandom. You're creating hostility and negativity in a space specifically meant for the opposite of that. You aren't helping the furry community by getting rid of some problem. You're just bullying other furries for no reason. And even if there were a handful of these elusive Nazis at the convention, why do you care? If they did or said anything bigoted or violent, they would immediately be removed from the convention. Even if a few of these did exist, is it really worth trying to fight them by wearing these ribbons, when the cost is spreading this atmosphere of negativity and furthering this paranoid witch hunt? What is gained here versus what is lost? There's another problem with the mentality of not being concerned about what doesn't apply to me, and that is basic human empathy. I find it odd that a group very concerned with the problems of others, specifically minorities, would tell me that I shouldn't be concerned with people who don't share the same exact identity as me. You're saying to me that if someone is being racist, I shouldn't care about it unless I share the same race with that person. You're directly saying that if someone is being bullied because they were accused of something they didn't do, that I shouldn't stand up for them. Or that if I do stand up for them, it means I'm just as guilty as they are. I've tried and I've tried to understand this mentality, and I just can't take it seriously any longer. It is a joke. This small, paranoid faction of furry witch hunters claims to want to put a stop to bullying while doing nothing but bully others. I can't stop you from putting on whatever ribbons you want, and I'm not going to try and force you. All I want for you to do is to think about the implications of the things that you do. Is it really worth it to bring all this political nonsense into convention space when everybody is only there to escape it in the first place? Let's end this on something positive. I want to remind everyone that as many furries as there are who are bullying you or accusing you of something terrible, that there are many, many more who remember what the fandom should be like. My own Discord is full of them, and you're welcome there too. Finally, I want to give a special thanks to everyone who supports me on Twitch and Patreon. If you want to as well, there are links to all of that in the description. Anyway, I'm Kothrix, and you have a wonderful day.